So now we're into part 2 of making these 40 hammers for Timothy. So I have the first few heats done on all of the hammers. You can see there's some on the floor there, and there's some here on the table. This is what I'm going to be working on right away. You can see some of them have grind lines on them. That's because the pinions weren't, perfectly square, or the steel was rhombusing or something bad. So I fixed that with the grinder. We're going to drift the eyes to their final dimension. Very slightly chamfer the edges of the square here, and we're going to put the stamps in. And so Timothy has got a 1912 stamp made, a custom stamp, nice old antique lettering to represent the 1912 rail that these are made from. They'll have the serial number, and they'll have our Touchmark, so they'll have the JR and then the T with a circle around it for Timothy. Instead of having a separate drift, the drift is actually attached to the press. You can see the stripper bar there, and so the drift actually goes in and then gets pulled right back out. And because it was drifted into a round hole, there's not very much spread on the cheeks, and so you don't have to worry about hitting the cheeks back to plane or crushing the eye when you hit the cheeks back to plane. So there's the very primitive drifting setup, and then obviously here at the power hammer, I have the bow tie tool that you saw under the steam hammer. I'm going to use just one side of this to refine the pins if I need to. I have a flatter here that I'll use if there's something that I need to flatten out that might be at the slightest angle. The punches, here are the custom stamps, the 1912 and the JR. You can see here the 12, or the 2, has quite a bit of grit in it, and that just comes from grease and scale piling up, and that's really important to clean out because otherwise it'll basically make the stamp fuzzy looking. So that needs to be cleaned. There's the serial numbers, and so I just pick them out one by one and then hold them in a little pair of tongs and stamp them in. I'll take a quick break now. So you might be asking, what are the tails on some of these hammers like this one here? What's the deal with that? Well, basically, one of the specifications of these hammers is that we want to have a nice clean line behind the eye where the peen starts. And so that is obviously going to contribute to the length of the hammer and the amount of material that's needed for the peen. So on these ones that have a little extra, of course, I always, if anything, you want to leave a little bit of extra material. I had to basically draw those peens out so that they started a little bit closer to the eye. So that gives me some of that waste material there that I got to trim off. Some of them have the perfect amount of material and some of them have a little bit more. So that's what that is, and that gets ground off. So as I alluded to, there's already a whole bunch of hammers finished. Here they are. These are 20 of them, the first ones that got finished. And there's actually 10 of these that are going to need to be rehandled, or about 10, because the taper, the hourglass taper in the eye was just too much, that it left too much of a gap. You can kind of see that right there. So we're going to try and do a little bit of work on those and get the new handles to fit a little bit better if we can. Anyways, you can see that this is how they look. They have this wire brushed finish instead of the standard hot oil finish that I do. They also have a beautiful mirror polish on the faces and the peens. And then they have these wonderful handles. Timothy kind of took inspiration from one of the sledgehammers that I have that I rehandled that kind of looks like this, with the sharp shoulder that's very close to the head, and then the ever so slightest taper from the bottom, or the top of the eye rather, or handle to the bottom. So that was kind of neat, kind of a nice collaboration. Here's little Lydia. She's just a dripping. Last time you saw her was in the shop update video. That was quite a few months ago now. She's just about 5 months old, and she's just doing so good. And she's not camera shy, but she probably doesn't know the camera's there. There we go. Can you smile for them? Yes, you can. All right, I have to go back out and do work now, I guess. See ya, Lydia. So thank you to Emily for rough grinding a large portion of the 40 hammers. I have one left here that she just rough ground, so you can see basically what it looks like. You can see that I've already radiused the inside of the eye there with the die grinder. That's so that it doesn't give a sharp edge when we drive the handle in, and it's not going to splinter apart. So again, rough ground. She basically just got them to length. She put a slight crown on the face, and then she got the peen to length. And so what we're going to do is continue to use the Reader 2x72 belt grinder to put the rest of the grits through it. So the next grit up that I go to from 36 is 120. This is a ceramic belt. One important thing that I like to do, and that is pretty necessary if you're trying to get a nice grind, is that you have to make your scratches go in the opposite direction when you're moving up a grit. So if you zoom up here on the hammer face, notice how central across the hammer face, how we have scratches going this way. On the sides here, we have them going up from the sides. If I want to make sure that I get those scratches out, I have to make sure that I'm grinding it the opposite way, and then you'd be able to easily tell when those are out. Just ever so slightly chamfered those edges. We're now going to move up in grits again. So this is the equivalent of about a 300 or so. So notice here, this hammer is serial number 39. So this is the one you're seeing get finished right now. If someone gets serial number 39, you can be special. So this railroad iron is probably just a higher carbon steel, I'm assuming. Timothy and I have done some heat treating tests. We've quenched in a few different mediums, tempered. Timothy's done Rockwell tests. And we've kind of come up with the best way to heat treat these is with some Parks AAA quenching oil. So you can see I have 2 pails of that right here that I've been quenching the hammers in. And so we want a differential heat treat on this hammer, which means that we want the faces to get hot, the face and the peen, and we don't really need the eye to get hard. So how I'm gonna do that is when I light the forge and put the hammer in, I'm gonna put a small brick, it's actually a broken piece of castable refractory, over the eye so that it blocks the flame. And the flame will go around it, and both ends of the hammer are gonna heat up. And then when we quench it, those are the only ends that are gonna get hard, even though that we're quenching the whole hammer. I'm gonna set it right over the eye of the hammer. Stick it in there, you can take a shot of that. I gotta flip it over midway through. I just take it out. I can briefly have a look and see if the peen or the face is heating up more. You see the peen is a little hotter, so I need to make sure it doesn't go in the fire quite as deep this time. It around. It's important to move it around to break that steam barrier. Otherwise, it'll kind of insulate the hot faces from touching the oil and prevent them from cooling down as fast as they need to. The whole point of using like AAA quench oil is because it kind of bridges the gap between a more viscous oil like canola oil and something that's less viscous like water. So you have kind of that in-between cooling rate, so to speak. So it, as advertised, it approaches the cooling rate of water, but it's gonna have that added benefit of, you know, not letting stuff crack as easily. This is a well-used Scotch-Brite wheel, and basically I'm just gonna use it to put a brief little shine up on the faces, and then I can see the temper colors. Here actually has just a slight straw starting to develop. Same with the face. So that's wonderful. And so now we just let that cool naturally, as long as it doesn't grow. If it starts to get a little bit more than we need, we can just dip the face there. Just make sure that doesn't get any hotter. So yeah, just a good deep straw color. So as we near the end of the process here, we have to polish the hammer face. I've already went ahead after the heat treat and used the 600 grit belt on the slack portion of the grinder to put a nice 600 grit finish across the face and the peen, which is what we need before we start polishing. The compound that we're using is the gray compound brick, like you see right here. And I have a little jerry-rigged light above that, just so I can see really well. It's important to look when you're polishing the faces at different angles at it in the light so you can see where the scratches are going, if there's scratches that you need to go grind out, or if you need to, you know, polish it harder in one direction or whatever. Here's my billets of hickory here. I'm just gonna pick through them quick and find a piece that has relatively straight grain. A lot of these will be for making top tools, which don't require super straight grain, but here's a piece that's pretty good right there. So let's put that in the bandsaw. Normally I would cut a whole bunch of billets at a time, but because we only need one blank, I'm not gonna do that. So we want a 16-inch length. So you've seen a bit of video footage of Samuel Corey turning the raw hickory billets like this into the nice handle blanks like this. So I won't need to show that again. But basically I just go over the whole thing with 120 grit, make sure the lines are sharp. It's imperative for this design that we have the slight taper to the handle and that we have a nice, obviously fit around the bottom of the eye. But the shoulder here is nice and sharp, just because it looks good. So here you can see on the rough sanding how it's, you know, the dimensions aren't quite symmetrical all the way around, and we have this rough texture and we don't have the nice sharp crispy sides. So that's what I'm going to change with 120 grit, and then let's fit the handle. So the last thing to do is smooth off the top of that handle and put a nice little chamfered ring around that. Let's do that right now. And that right there is finished. That's serial number 38. So you're special if you get that one too. And that is, this is the last hammer to be finished here. So there's serial number up to 41 here. Here's some scrap handles that'll go into the wood stove, but there we go. Let's go put these with the rest. There is 40 hammers lining the entranceway to the house. Doesn't that look epic? Timothy has a little bit of work that he's going to do to these. He's going to make the handles look real nice, do a little bit of magic to them, and I think he has some real nice boxes to put these in. He's going to pick them up tomorrow. Maybe we'll get some footage of that. But for now, that's case closed.
All right, here we go, guys. Seeing some... Oh, my... Ethan! That is... Oh, guys, you gotta check this out. This is crazy. Oh, man. Is so many hammers.